Title suggestion: Why your best strategy is to do nothing. According to the I Ching in the year 1040 BC, a man sat in a damp, silent prison cell in Yoli. He was not a common criminal. He was King Wen of Zhou, a leader whose influence had become so threatening to the reigning tyrant that his only path to survival was total isolation. Most men in his position would have spent those years plotting a bloody revenge or descending into the madness of despair. But King Wen did something that contradicts every modern instinct we have about power and survival. He sat in the dirt, took 64 ancient symbols of broken and unbroken lines, and he began to think. He didn't pray for a miracle. He didn't draft a manifesto. He watched the way the moss grew on the prison walls. He listened to the rhythm of the guards' footsteps. He studied the slow, inevitable shift of the seasons through a single high window. While the world outside was consumed by the noise of a dying dynasty, King Wen was mapping the very fabric of reality. He realized a truth that every CEO, every general, and every ambitious soul today desperately tries to ignore. The most powerful thing you can do when the world is in chaos is absolutely nothing. But not the nothing of the lazy. The nothing of the strategist who knows that the tide is about to turn. Today, we decode the I Ching, the book of changes, not as a book of fortune-telling, but as the ultimate manual for navigating the cycles of power that govern your life, your career, and the very rise and fall of civilizations. The I Ching is not a book you read. It is a system you consult. To understand its weight, you must feel the world of the Shang dynasty, a civilization defined by its obsession with bronze, blood, and the absolute authority of the god kings. The Shang were masters of the earth, yet they were terrified of the unseen. They burned oracle bones to hear the voices of ancestors. But King Wen, and later his son the Duke of Zhou, saw something deeper. They saw that the universe wasn't ruled by the whims of ghosts, but by the relentless, mathematical precision of change. They called it the mandate of heaven. But it wasn't a divine right to rule. It was a realization that everything in existence moves in waves. Success leads to arrogance. Arrogance leads to blindness. Blindness leads to collapse. And in that collapse, the seeds of the next great rise are planted. Think of the companies that dominated the world 20 years ago. Think of the leaders who felt untouchable just last month. Where are they now? They were swept away because they believed the wave they were riding would never break. King Wen survived his prison cell because he knew the cell was just a trough in the wave. He knew that if he could remain still, the wave would eventually carry him to the throne. We live in an era of the hustle. We are told that if we aren't moving, we are losing. If we aren't disrupting, we are being disrupted. But the I Ching offers a chilling counter-narrative. Most of our action is actually a form of panic. We move because we are afraid of the silence. We build because we are afraid of the void. But the master strategist knows that the void is where the real power lives. Did you know that the most successful hedge fund managers and the most effective military commanders often spend 90% of their time in observation and only 10% in execution? They are students of the I Ching, whether they know it or not. They are waiting for the hexagram of the moment to align. The I Ching is built on 64 hexagrams, symbols made of 6 lines. Some lines are solid, representing yang, action, light, strength. Some lines are broken, representing yin, receptivity, darkness, yielding. Every situation in your life right now can be mapped to one of these 64 states. The mistake we make is trying to apply yang energy to a yin situation. It's like trying to harvest wheat in the middle of a blizzard. You aren't being proactive. You are being a fool. You are fighting the Tao, and the Tao always wins. Let us look at the first and most misunderstood teaching of the Oracle. Hexagram 1, Chen, the creative, the primal power. The text says, hidden dragon. Do not act. Read that again. The most powerful symbol in the entire book, the symbol of pure, unadulterated strength, begins with a command to stay hidden. Hidden dragon. Do not act. In plain language, this means that your greatest potential is most vulnerable when it is first conceived. If you show your hand too early, the world will crush it. If you launch your revolutionary idea before it has internal mass, it will evaporate. Consider the lost years of Steve Jobs after he was fired from Apple. He didn't try to crawl back. He didn't spend his time complaining to the press. He went underground. He built Next. He bought Pixar. He was the hidden dragon. He was accumulating yin, preparing for the moment when the young energy of the market would be ready for his return. The modern world demands that you build in public. The I Ching warns that if you build in public, you are building on sand. True power requires a period of incubation where no one knows your name, no one knows your plan, and no one can stop you because they don't even know you exist. Are you currently in a hidden dragon phase? If you are feeling overlooked or ignored, do not fight it. Use the shadows to grow. Teaching number 2. Hexagram 29. Can. The abysmal. Water. The quote from the text is haunting. Water flows on uninterrupted and reaches its goal. It fills up all the places through which it flows. It does not shrink from any dangerous spot. In the I Ching, the abysmal represents danger, specifically the danger of falling into a pit or a trap. But the advice isn't to climb out. It isn't to scream for help. It is to become like water. When water falls into a pit, it doesn't panic. It doesn't try to think its way out. It simply continues to be itself. It fills the hole, inch by inch, until the level of the water reaches the top, and then it simply flows over the edge. Look at Jensen Huang and the rise of NVIDIA. For decades, they were in the abysmal. They were building technology for a market that barely existed, high-end gaming. They were mocked. They were ignored by the giants like Intel. But they didn't pivot to follow the crowd. They filled the hole. They kept flowing into the depths of GPU architecture. They didn't shrink from the dangerous spot of being a niche player. And when the pit of the market finally filled up with the needs of AI and deep learning, NVIDIA didn't have to jump. They were already at the top. They simply flowed out and covered the world. Vary your rhythm. Sometimes you are the dragon, sometimes you are the water, but you are never the hammer. The hammer breaks when it hits something harder. The water never breaks. It only changes its course. Ask yourself, in your current struggle, are you trying to break the wall, or are you waiting for the water level to rise? The wall is temporary. The water is eternal. This is the core of the I Ching's law of reversal. Teaching number 3. Hexagram 11. Tai. Peace. And hexagram 12. Pi. Stagnation. The I Ching makes a shocking claim. Peace is the beginning of disaster, and stagnation is the beginning of hope. The quote, "When the way of the superior man is on the increase, the way of the inferior man is on the decrease. When the way of the inferior man is on the increase, the way of the superior man is on the decrease." This is the law of the pendulum. When a company is at its peak of peace, when the profits are record-breaking and everyone is happy, the inferior man begins to creep in. Complacency, greed, the desire to protect what you have rather than create what is next. This is why companies like Blockbuster or Kodak died. They were in a state of peace, which blinded them to the fact that they were already entering stagnation. Conversely, when you are in stagnation, when nothing is working and your back is against the wall, the superior man is forced to awaken. You have no choice but to be disciplined, to be lean, to be innovative. The I Ching teaches us to look for the seed of the opposite state. When things are going well, look for the crack in the foundation. When things are falling apart, look for the single green sprout in the ashes. Every 4 minutes, we check our phones. Every hour, we check our emails. We are addicted to the yang of information. But the I Ching says that wisdom is the ability to sit with the yin of uncertainty. If you cannot sit in a room for 30 minutes without a distraction, you cannot use the I Ching. You are a slave to the cycle, not its master. Teaching number 4. Hexagram 5. Su. Waiting. Nourishment. The quote, "Waiting. If you are sincere, you have light and success. Perseverance brings good fortune. It furthers one to cross the great water." We think of waiting as a passive act. We think of it as wasting time. The I Ching views waiting as a high-level military maneuver. It is the waiting of a predator in the tall grass. You are not waiting because you are weak. You are waiting because the great water, the big opportunity, is not yet ready to be crossed. Look at Warren Buffett. He is the modern sage of hexagram 5. He often sits on billions of dollars in cash for years, doing absolutely nothing. The inferior men of Wall Street mock him. They say he's lost his touch. They say he's too old. But Buffett is waiting. He is nourishing his capital. He knows that eventually, the market will panic. Eventually, the great water will become calm enough to cross. And when that moment comes, he doesn't just invest. He swallows entire industries while everyone else is drowning. The I Ching is not about winning. It is about correctness. If you win through incorrect means, through luck, through deceit, through frantic energy, you have actually lost. Because you have moved out of alignment with the Tao. And what goes up without the Tao must come down with a crash that you will not survive. To wait with sincerity is to ensure that when you finally move, your movement is backed by the entire weight of the universe. Statistical fact: 92% of New Year's resolutions fail within the first 3 weeks. Why? Because people try to go from a yin state, rest, to a yang state, intense action, without passing through the intermediate stages of the I Ching. They try to leap the hexagrams. And nature does not allow leaps. It only allows transitions. How do we apply this ancient, cryptic wisdom to your life this week? I will not give you vague advice about staying positive. I will give you 3 concrete protocols based on the Book of Changes. First, the hexagram audit. This week, I want you to look at the 3 biggest projects in your life: your career, your relationship, and your personal growth. For each one, ask, is this a yang situation or a yin situation? Are you trying to force a yang outcome, a promotion, a breakthrough, a change in someone else, in a yin environment? If you are met with constant resistance, stop. You are in hexagram 12, stagnation. Your task this week is not to push harder. It is to withdraw, to go silent, to stop selling. Watch what happens to the energy of the room when you stop trying to control it. You will see the inferior man of the situation reveal himself. You will see where the real power lies. Second, the observation journal. The I Ching was created by men who watched the world with microscopic intensity. This week, stop trying to fix things and start trying to map them. Spend 10 minutes at the end of each day writing down the rhythms you noticed. Did your boss's mood shift with the moon cycle? Did the market dip every time a certain news cycle repeated? We think our lives are a series of random events. They are not. They are a series of repeating